we are happy to have you here, first of all. And I understand you're on a mission tomorrow to Washington, D.C. Tell us about that mission.
Press conference in Washington at the National Press Club. And we're announcing the fact that we have placed a petition for a posthumous pardon on the desk of President Obama, and also with the pardon attorney of the Justice Department. And our announcement tomorrow then is kicking off a program to mobilize support, both popular support and support of the politicians, such as the Congressional Black Caucus, to encourage President Obama to act before he leaves office on this particular pardon.
Okay, now tell us, what is the objective of the pardon?
Well, basically, the idea is to exonerate Marcus Garvey because his name is still on the books of the United States as a criminal. And as you know, he's the first national hero of Jamaica. He's the one responsible for transforming black politics globally. He's responsible for the civil rights movement here, laying the foundation. He's responsible for all the nationalist movements in the Caribbean and in Africa, laying the foundations there, whether it's with the ANC in South Africa or the Kikuyu in Kenya, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm. Now, we have a very...
And it's a disgrace to have him listed as a criminal when there's no evidence, and the whole thing was perpetrated by the perverted mind of J. Edgar Hoover.
Now, we have, I must tell you that we have a chat room here where our listeners are commenting as you are speaking. And there's a question coming in, pardon or exonerate? Help us to understand the distinction between the two, because this is a petition for a pardon, a presidential pardon. Explain why you say exonerate when this is a petition for a pardon.
Yeah, well, we don't have any other, legal venue. Because it has been brought before the Congress by Congressman Rangel, House resolutions, all the way back to 2007. It has been brought before the House Judiciary Committee by John Conyers. I participated in that along with my brother in 1987.
Yes.
So it has gone through those processes through the Congress, and to no avail. It has not gotten out of those particular areas. Now, the only other legal way to approach it is through a posthumous pardon. There's no other legal venue. But what we're saying with the pardon, we've presented evidence that there was no criminal act, that there was no evidence, and that the trial was bogus. So we would expect that the president would say this, and therefore it would also be an exoneration. He would say no crime was committed, and, Marcus Garvey was therefore innocent. So we're using this process, which is a legal avenue, to, quote, obtain exoneration.
Now, how many signatures are you seeking to get? Because I understand that the president, the White House, has a threshold of some 20,000 signatures that before they even pay any attention to a petition. So is there a goal associated with it? What is the process here?
Yeah. Well, again, it's not so much the number of signatures. As you know, in some sense, politics is who you know and what you know. Therefore, we expect that the Congressional Black Caucus, who Yvette Clarke is leading the push there, for the exoneration, the Congressional Black Caucus will come out strongly. We know that we have Congressman Rangel, we know we have John Conyers, we know we have Meeks, we know we have Hakeem Jeffries, we know we have Yvette Clarke, and so on. So we're expecting that the Congressional Black Caucus would come out strongly to encourage the president to take this action. And we're also asking for different organizations to step up. Right now, we have a letter from Andy Young, former Ambassador Andy Young, that we're going to be reading at the press conference tomorrow. So, we're getting that kind of support. That doesn't mean that we do not want the support of those people who would write in, with a petition. And we're in the process of organizing that so it can be online, and it may even go to President Obama's Facebook account. So, these things all need to work together.
Well, there actually is a petition online courtesy of the UNIA. Are you familiar with that initiative?
No, I'm familiar with the brother in Florida,
Jeffrey
who was. I'm sorry.
Jeffrey Phelps?
What's the name again?
Jeffrey Phillips, I believe.
Yes, exactly right. And he has collected 10,000 signatures, which, as far as I know, he had placed on Obama's desk at some time through a Congress person, I think, from the Florida area. So I'm familiar with that.
And I see a UNIA petition on change.org, which is seeking 10,000 signatures. I don't know how current it is, but it seems to say that it currently has over 7,000 signatures. The goal is 10,000. And I'm wondering how all of these initiatives are working together or not working together.
Well, it's hard to get everybody organized into one unit, but there's nothing wrong with everybody working, towards the same goal, but working independently, because, this needs to be a massive effort. We need to get signatures from the Caribbean. We need to get ambassadors from, CARICOM, the Prime Minister of Jamaica. We need to get ambassadors from the African Union, a statement from the African Union, etc. So, this can't all be done, under one umbrella. So it's quite okay for people to work independently because we're all working towards the same goal, which is the exoneration of Marcus Garvey and removing this cloud of criminality from his name.
So I gather from what you said that there's no such thing as a posthumous exoneration.
Right.
Now, let's talk a little bit about that, because exoneration, as I understand it, is something that has to go through the courts, and the courts would be the body that would exonerate someone and say you're not responsible for the things that you've been convicted of. In the case of a pardon, this is in Article 2 of the Constitution that grants the President the authority to pardon someone, and there are usually some terms associated with a pardon that says you can't do this and you can't do that. And President Obama has actually done several presidential pardons during his 7.5 years in office. And on the subject of pardoning Marcus Garvey, he has said that no, he thinks it'd be a waste of time. This goes back too far. It would not be of any value, and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure that you're aware of the previous initiatives. You're aware of the Prime Minister of Jamaica last year on his visit, raising the issue. Well, you just said that sometimes it's not so much, it's politics. What do you think it will take to convince the president this time around to pardon Garvey?
I have no idea, but we'll continue with our work until it happens or the next president goes into office.
But what consideration, though, are you taking of the history of this effort to get a pardon? Like you mentioned on Garvey's...
Well, we know the history. I mean, if you go by the history, then you'll stop. You'll say it didn't happen before, therefore it can't happen now. And that's what history is.
Right.
Oh, but you can make history.
No. I'm not suggesting...
History is made by people who surmount obstacles.
Right. I'm not suggesting that you give up because of the history. What I'm asking, though, is in light of the history, what new strategies, what new tactics are going to be put in place to overcome the obstacles that has been faced in the past? Because it would seem to me that if you've gotten a no before, then without some new information, some new tactics, something new to overcome, then you're likely to get a no again. So I'm trying to find out, is there something new that this particular campaign is considering that has not been tried before?
That there is nothing specifically new. There is a continued pressure in terms of the president for him to use his executive authority to grant what we are asking for.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk to us a little bit about then the benefits of a pardon. I notice in the petition that you've provided, it uses both words in the language that was very interesting, where it talks about, let me see what it says here. It says the posthumous pardon petition now filed on Garvey's behalf seeks to exonerate him from the stigma of the conviction. So the petition, the pardon, seeks to exonerate him from the stigma of the conviction. Help us to understand what that language means.
Well, I think the language is clear, and I think I explained it before, that this is a legal process that is left open to us, which is a posthumous pardon. And because of the evidence that we have placed in front of the president, we are expecting and hoping that he will say that Marcus Garvey was not guilty of any particular crime, and that was a miscarriage of justice. I think that's fairly clear. That is what we're aiming for.
I understand that.
Therefore, the criminal cloud will be removed from his name.
But also, as you said, that didn't stop the government of Jamaica from naming him their first national hero. Someone, in responding to the outreach about our conversation this evening, pointed out that Garvey is now in the curriculum in the schools of Jamaica. So apparently that stigma, maybe it doesn't exist, or does it really exist? It didn't seem
well, I think that's a figment of your imagination or somebody else's imagination. If somebody is branded a criminal by the most powerful government in the world, then a stigma exists. I mean, that's plain and simple. It doesn't matter what, quotes, Jamaica has done, which it has done the right thing in naming him the national hero and teaching about him in the schools. But that does not happen here in the United States, which is the most powerful country in the world, which sets the tone for the rest of the world, which says what the rest of the world should think, etc., etc. So it's of extreme importance that the United States says, look, there was a miscarriage of justice. I mean, and it's plain to see that the judiciary in the United States is not on the side of the black man. And that is something that has happened for 100 years. So we need to bring that to light and correct that.
But I have to ask you then, and Saber, you have something to...
No.
I have to ask you then, how does that square with the philosophies and the opinions of Marcus Garvey himself, who talked about Africa for the Africans and Europe for the Europeans, and he basically was on a path that, I don't know that it gave as much importance or credence to what the United States was doing as you just gave in what you just said. In other words, he was charting a path that was independent of what the United States was doing. He was about his business, as I understand Garvey. How does that square with what you just said?
Well, then I think you need to understand that he himself, made an appeal against the conviction because he knew the conviction was wrong. So he needed his name cleared. So he initiated the process himself. And we are continuing that. This is the wish of Marcus Garvey, to have his name cleared in all courts, everywhere in the world.
Oh, yeah, I absolutely agree. And I believe that there is strong support for clearing his name. I'm trying to understand, though, whether or not a pardon does that, and that the significance of the position of the United States, as you've just explained, is consistent with his philosophy and thinking. Look, I would have wanted my name clear too, clearly, especially if you did nothing wrong. So I certainly understand Garvey's initiative, and I'm trying to understand more clearly the current initiative to clear his name and the objective in clearing the name. Because it seems to me that...
Well, I think I've explained it, and I'm saying that we're continuing Marcus Garvey's wish, because he was innocent. That's why he defended himself. The first lawyer that he had told him to cop a plea, and he said, no, I'm innocent. And that's why he went to court on his own behalf, and we're continuing that. Mm-hmm. As a son of Marcus Garvey and as disciples of Marcus Garvey, we need to continue fighting to clear his name of all of these charges and prove his innocence, because he's our national hero, and he has set the stage for the redemption of Africa, and we have to follow his philosophy. And and if he's indeed marked as a criminal by some particular entity, which again is the most powerful entity in the world, then that blunts his message. people have said, gee, there's a stigma. Maybe I shouldn't read this book about Marcus Garvey. Maybe he wasn't really who he says he is, or some people say he is because the United States government says blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So that needs to go.
Well, I don't think that, but I don't think that's necessarily the case, because we do know that our greatest leaders are always stigmatized by the power structure. So we've come to kind of like understand that. So to a certain extent, then there's two ways of looking at it, in the sense that the white power structure will look at it a certain way, but the people who grassroots who know and love Marcus Garvey, they'll never see it that way. So, for example, I as a UNIA member, I forgot all about the fact that he was convicted. It's like, to us in the UNIA or people, we don't think about that. We know what he stood for and what he was about, and in the government branding him as a criminal, we just see it as part of the whole historical white supremacist attempt to undermine African people. So,
Mahatma Gandhi was put in prison by the British,
yes.
And a number of his followers were imprisoned and even killed. And he's looked to the world over as, one of the fathers of Indian nationalism. It's the same thing all over the world. But the point is that you prove them wrong. And that is the point.
And I guess the question is, to what end? Some people contend that the energy, that they have not seen enough energy in propagating the philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey, that we should be spending a lot more time doing that. And I'm trying to understand.
Well, let me just say that, for the last 60 years, I've been doing just that. Okay? I speak weekly, monthly, etc., about Marcus Garvey all over the world. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure who the we are that is saying whatever they are. I see it necessary to clear his name. And I think everybody who is saying this or that needs to propagate the philosophy themselves and take that on as a mantle.
I absolutely agree that we all need to be doing more to do just that. And I think that is the issue that some people raise about. Earlier you said, there can be several initiatives going on at the same time to clear Marcus Garvey's name. One of the things that Marcus Garvey is recognized for was his organizing ability in bringing us together. And that certainly is a part of his legacy, bringing us together. Is that no longer operative, that we should really work together to get things done, and that in numbers there is a better strength and chance of getting the objective accomplished? Or is it okay and equally acceptable to be pursuing different divergent strategies and initiatives at the same time towards the same goal? Is a part of the question that some people are asking. What are your thoughts about that?
Marcus Garvey in 1927 wrote a poem, The United States of Africa. We're still battling for the United States of Africa. Okay? The African Union is still battling for the United States of Africa. So that was a thesis, a central thesis of Marcus Garvey. And that's a central thesis of all Garveyites. Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. Mm-hmm. But everybody can do whatever it is that they think needs to be done to move things forward. One man can't do it, or even one organization can't do it. We have an African Union. You have a UNIA that is still existing. It's somewhat fragmented. It exists. You have many, many different organizations, Trans-Africa, etc. They're all working on some particular aspect of uplifting, African people.
Response.
No longer have simply one umbrella.
Yeah.
The whole system is too big. It's 1.2 billion African people. You can't push them under one umbrella. The African Union, is trying to create the sixth region. Mm-hmm. And we're struggling with trying to create the sixth region.
Yeah.
There you have. There's a lot of work to be done.
I don't know if it's a matter of pushing, though. I don't think Marcus Garvey pushed anyone. I think he attracted
I'm not sure
more so
pushing.
than
Did
pushing.
I say something about pushing?
Yes, you did say you can't push everyone under one umbrella, and Marcus Garvey did have a very big umbrella, but it wasn't the result of pushing everyone under one umbrella. I think he attracted people to what he was
Okay.
saying.
I think I'm finished with the conversation. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.
Okay, thanks for being with us. Well, there you have it. Dr. Julius Garvey saying his piece on this mission to seek the exoneration of his father, Marcus Garvey. And as you could see, he's very passionate about his mission.
Somewhere the communication went wrong somewhere, because he was antagonistic, and I can understand why.
Well, when you say the communication went wrong, what do you mean?
In other words, did he feel like we were attacking him or something? Because that's how he was acting.
I think he correctly felt that his work was being questioned. And I think that Ms. G says he came on in a very antagonistic manner.
Well, he definitely became antagonistic. I mean,
and I think that is indeed a part of the problem we face as a culture. It's a part of the reason why, for instance, the notion that we working under one umbrella is not the way to go. We need to just do our own thing separately.
No, because that's what Garvey was all about. Garvey's organization was, in fact, that quote unquote umbrella.
But that's exactly the situation we face today. Why I was getting ready to say to Dr. Garvey that, notwithstanding the significance and the importance of the work that Marcus Garvey did, one of the comments I got today regarding this was, well, the Olympics is going on. I can't be listening to this conversation while the Olympics is going on. That's the significance.
You can record that. And with all the technology, you can record that and watch that later. I mean,
well, my point is, that's the kind of significance that some of us place on Marcus Garvey and the work and a discussion about this. And really...
So I'm trying to figure out why was he antagonistic? What? I don't know, man. I'm a little stupefied, just like Miss G, man. I'm like, what the hell? He basically hung up on us, and I'm like, what the hell was all that about?
Miss G says, I'm really stumped. Well, I can't say that I am, though. I really can't say that I am, because, and I don't know why you are, because you've been around the block long enough to know how.
Yeah, but I mean, I was recently, as I was talking to him before we came on the air, I was recently at an audit meeting where he made a presentation to the African Union. He was acting normal then.
Yes, because that was not a conversation. That was a presentation. You don't get questioned in a presentation or get questions raised. I think I think Dr. Garvey expected to make a presentation.
As opposed to being questioned.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this was the expectation, that you simply come and you make a presentation, because in large part, that's how media works.
I tell you what then was disappointing then is that he wasn't able to respond to simple questions without losing his composure.
And I'm saying,
I didn't expect that.
I'm saying I can understand it, because I understand the condition we're in, the position we're in. It is precisely why we're in the position we're in. Which is why I said, look, Marcus Garvey didn't force anybody under one umbrella. He attracted people under that umbrella. Now, who is being attracted by the performance here this evening?